that I wanted to create this group besides trying to be a voice for those people that are scared or about the uncertainty and what to do, because they look up to all of us, is that I do not watch the news. I never like doing it. So I get my information really through my colleagues. And at the very beginning of all this pandemic, from colleagues that are doctors, smart, I will get something and then I will take it as it was true. And then I will myself pass it to the people I love. And then within a few minutes or 2 hours, somebody tells me this is fake. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to create this group, because, and it's been great for me because I get my information really from all of you, which I know that you guys, I mean, I trust you and you do your research and you are aware of fake news and you do your due diligence before you share anything. And I think that if that happens to somebody like me, as a key opinion leader, imagine what's happening to people that just follow you and they have no idea and they propagate fake news. So that's the reason I created this. And since we have Rajmi and she's in India, I want to know what's going on in India and then we go from there.
Yeah, so India, we've been fortunate. So the death toll is not so high. I just, in fact, because we had the meeting now, got in touch with someone in ICMR 2 hours ago to get the latest data. And we have, let me tell you, for a minute. So in Maharashtra, which is where I live in Bombay, so the state of Maharashtra has 31,841 tests done so far. With infected people have been around 1,670, recovered is around 190, and death has been 110. But from the entire country, the reporting has been 7,995 have contacted the infection, out of which 815 have recovered and 255 deaths. So for me, in a large country like this, yeah, the numbers seem to be very nice. And also a crowded place like ours, the numbers seems to be well contained, which I don't know whether it is God's grace. They are now saying that there are 3 types of viruses, the type A, type B, and type C. And the claim is that the type B is most virulent, which is the one which is in Spain and Italy and the US. But in India seems to have either this A or the C, which again they think is a less virulent virus, number 1. 2, I know a lot of people might say there's not enough testing done, but for me, what I end up thinking is death can't be hidden, right? Whether somebody's infected or not be hidden, but if there are deaths out there, then it would show up. So there is not that many deaths because of any infectious diseases, or for that matter, respiratory diseases that's been reported as any high. So these are a few things. I don't know if it is temperature. There's, of course, everybody's arguing pros and cons about that. Don't know if it is it's kind of immunity because of the rest of the influenzas which are happening in the space anyways, or it is the BCG vaccine. Something is saving us.
The BCG vaccine.
Yeah, the BCG vaccine makes real sense. Absolutely, I agree with Steve. What's interesting is that you're so crowded, right? And so we always worried that was the reason why the rate was what it was in New York. But I agree that there are probably more strains. We covered this at the last talk. Nice to see you. Awesome. And now that there's 3, first coming out of China, there were 2 strains, and now there appears to be 3. And so the question is it mutating, or were there originally this many? And then what are we vaccinating for? Which strain, or is it a universal one? I don't know the answers to those questions, but I think that there's something very interesting.
And what are you guys doing in India that is different to control the contamination from person to person?
I don't think we're doing anything really different right now, other than the rest of the protocols are being followed the same. Of course, social distancing is a very big thing that is followed, and I'm so impressed by our government, by our local police and the municipal workers. It is surprising to see a country which I would say innately our nature is to group up. Our nature is to be in groups, big families, large gatherings. Every festival is a come together celebration. We're very huggy, kissy people. And to see us able to maintain that social distancing is amazing. And the way there is police deployed literally at every building corner to make sure it's followed, I think it was a wonderful thing. And we acted faster than a few countries did. So to me, that's the advantage.
And what about Per? I know that you're kind of like a social experiment compared to what people are doing in the rest of the world. How things are going in Sweden?
Well, I think if we look at the figures, we are obviously having a steep increase in number of cases, but it mainly in Stockholm, where we got a lot of people coming home or after their ski vacation in February north of Italy. And we did a very good work of tracking those people that came from Italy and were infected. So we confined the spread in the beginning, but then we started to get the spread within the society, and that was mainly in Stockholm. And then it went out through cities north of Stockholm, but we still have the majority of the cases in Sweden, similar to like what we see in the US, where New York is more affected by the spread of the virus than in other parts of the country. And if you look at the mortality rates, whereas the whole of the US only still have 50 micromorts. And if we put that in relation to the seasonal flu, we know, I looked at 10 years micromorts in the US from 2011 up until this year, and it varied between 37,000 cases up to 92,000 cases. And considering the fact that you have about 340 million inhabitants, that's a micromort of between 100 to 200. So it seems like the mortality for COVID-19 is higher. We don't know the end yet, but it's not extremely, it's not like 20 times higher than the seasonal flu. But the problem is obviously we gather a lot of people into a more restricted time, which puts a lot of effort into the health system. Now, in Sweden, most of our restriction has been based on the fact that we want to distance people, we want to minimize contact, but we don't want to close down the societies. So there's no handshaking. We just do the Thai greeting to people, and actually, if you look at Swedish very open society,
it's not supervised. No,
it wasn't here.
If you look at the very open society, the Swedish very open way of dealing with this, we haven't seen any faster spread due to that. So we don't know the final answer to this. But so far, what we see in Sweden compared to, for instance, Denmark and Norway, which has much more restriction, is not worse off in Sweden.
So we know that every year we have flu season, and that doesn't mean that every single year the flu virus says, hey, let's pack our bags, let's attack these humans, it's flu season. I think that because we have the body's dealing with very low temperatures, also all around holidays where we're drinking a lot, we're stressed because the holidays are coming, we're eating a lot of sugar, all these factors into being more vulnerable to viruses. Do you guys think that when the summer comes and the hot temperature comes, are we going to see this virus disappear? And if that's correct, what's going to happen in Brazil, where they have the opposite climate? In Brazil, the Brazilians will see an increase of COVID virus infections, and how are we going to get rid of this virus if temperature changes from one continent to another, or from one location to another in America?
Yes, this is very smart question, because our winter time here will be like in June, you know. But for example, it was a very smart decision from the health ministry in Brazil. They give the vaccines to flu, to H1N1 before the right time, to the usual time to do that. We are taking the vaccine now for flu, you know, just to avoid this disease, to not confound that with coronavirus and this kind of thing. So we are doing that because for them, for the health minister, will be worst this winter time in Brazil. Even is not a winter time, we don't have this, no, but generally the disease comes together in this period. So because of that, we did the vaccine.
We have two characteristics. São Paulo has the huge number of infected people. We have almost 70% of all country cases, more than even from Rio. We started isolation previously, but now from this week, around the Holy Week, people are becoming to relax a little bit, and we are a little bit worried about it. But BCG vaccination is mandatory here in Brazil for everybody. So it's part of our calendar of immunization.
Can I add something to what Per said? Yes, I agree with you, Per, that the deaths to this virus are greater than the flu, and that there are a lot of deaths to the flu, to influenza. But I'd also just put a word of caution that about 169 million influenza vaccines are sent out every year, and about 43% of the US population gets the flu vaccine. So although the flu vaccine is not 100% protective, there are a lot of people that are being protected, and even with that protection, we have the deaths that we have. And so it's not that, I think that if we didn't have a flu vaccine, we'd probably absolutely see more deaths. And perhaps maybe we can learn something from that. And if we come out with a vaccine for the coronavirus, we may be able to bring it down to something similar to what we see with the flu vaccine. But the deaths are a little skewed because so many people are getting vaccinated.
Absolutely, and I agree 100% with you that if you consider that, especially that we have vaccine for the influenza, it's very likely that the COVID-19 is not worse than the ordinary seasonal flu. The fact we don't have any vaccine means that we get a lot of people coming into a shorter period of time. But in spite of that, it seems like the death rate is not that extremely much higher. So the virus in itself is probably not that dangerous as some people claim. It's likely not to be that dangerous for most people. Obviously, there are people that are elderly, that have these complicating diseases, they're smokers and so on. They are much more high at risk to getting a severe disease. And obviously, probably other reasons also but the question, I think, which is very relevant and that we have to consider when people say that Sweden are doing an experiment. When we don't close down the society, we have severe restrictions on meeting elderly. We're not going into, all restaurants are kept separate table in between another table and so on. But to close down whole societies and consider the fact that we will have a big growth of unemployment. And you look at some of the data for unemployment. I saw data from the US where they said that 1% increase in unemployment means 37,000 deaths. That's equal to 100 micromoles.
So let's go to the other extreme, to Colombia. And the thing is in Colombia, they're still in quarantine and they're actually very strict. And some of them, they believe that if they don't do this, what's going to happen, there's going to be more and more cases, and that will affect the economy even more so. So it's better just to nip it right from the beginning. What do you think about Botero, and how's it going with you in Colombia?
Everything is closed, everything is down. The shopping malls, the restaurants, and as Per Hayden talked, has been very difficult for the financial and economics of the country, because around 70% of the population lives by day. They do business in the street, they have big gatherings, but now it's not allowed. It's not allowed. The lockdown is very strict. if the police see you walking around, you will have a very expensive tip that you must pay immediately, around $300. So it's like that the country is doing all this. We have been preparing a lot of new intensive care units, respirators. Some universities have already fabricated new ventilators that are working very well, but we are waiting.
Steve, now just looking at the other side of your screen, top and bottom, comparing these two models, these two countries, how they handle the infection, Sweden and Colombia, what do you think and what your predictions are?
I'm really interested in Sweden. That's why it's great to talk to Perrin, but I think it's a different population completely. And also, I'm not so sure I believe that it's the different types of viruses that's causing it. I think some of it, there may be a genetic predisposition to the virus that we just haven't figured out yet that makes certain people more susceptible to it. So I'm interested to see if we get more testing on it. I think social distancing is working. I think this virus is pretty lethal, and in some people, and we don't really know why. And I think that's the biggest issue. Whereas the flu, I think we have a pretty good understanding of who's going to be afflicted by it. But with this virus, we don't know. And I talked with Doris about this yesterday. I really believe it comes down to understanding better the pathophysiology of this. I'd like to believe that within another month or so, we're going to recognize we're going to have a better idea of how to manage this. And then as well, as soon as we recognize how to decrease the mortality rate in the ICU from 80% or 70% down to like 10%, I think that's when it's opening up, because people will accept a risk as long as they know the risk, like we do with the flu.
So, Steve, when you say we don't know if it's a genetic predisposition, there's different ways to look at it. Like the way I look also, if this virus have been around for eons, is it possible that some people have a genetic mutation that protects them from the virus, like some African descent individuals have protection for sickle cell anemia, and the body learn how to through evolution protect itself. It's questions that we don't know. But I wanna hear from Sebastian. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
So I mean, I like you. I don't watch the news, but I'm having a lot of chats and talks with friends from all over the world. And just recently, from a friend from Colombia, I heard that the new theory. I mean, it's again a theory, and I would like to put this also out to discussion. Is the fact that this virus actually affects something with the hemoglobin, something that is within the erythrocytes, and then it does an increased amount of methemoglobin and then releases the iron from the hemoglobin, and then that this iron causes damage to the intima, which kind of results in vasculitis. And it could also explain why a certain amount of people, like African American descendants, are more susceptible to some extent, like for the sickle cell anemia. And for me, it's like every day, kind of, I'm trying to think of a puzzle that kind of puts everything together and explains more and more. I mean, if you think about it in the beginning, well, it was a viral pneumonia, which is a typical viral pneumonia. Now we went back and started to take a drug against malaria. I mean, malaria, what does it do? I mean, there's something with the erythrocytes in the end of the day. And so we started to go from this direction. Then we came to the vasculitis. And now from the vasculitis, the question is, what is the next step? Maybe if we put more and more together, we can see, well, it's really something with the blood, because we know we have different blood factors. I mean, we have A, B, C, and D up to F, different blood types, which influence how the blood is constrained. And then maybe this kind of explains why it's a variety.
So Steve has been doing his 5-minute questions, and one of the questions is, and I saw you yesterday, Doris, you look amazing as always, but one of the questions was, when do we think that we can really go back to work, when we think this is going to end? And I want to hear from Sheila, if you have a crystal ball or you can help us predict, do you think that we should stay in the quarantine? Are you ready to go to work? And if you are, how are you gonna do it?
I mean, we all have very high overhead, especially LA and New York, and I'm getting to the point where if I don't go in to see, you know, certain cases, I don't know how long I'll be able to float my staff without having to, you know, let them go. And I'm thinking in my mind now about certain types of procedures or certain types of cases that I think are safer than others, that maybe we start with those. For example, awake procedures away from the head and neck. I mean, these are the types of thoughts I'm starting to have right now about what kinds of cases are safe to perform, where the, you know, where maybe we start with those, and maybe not lip filler, or maybe not buccal fat pad removal, or I'm definitely not thinking general surgery cases right now, because I was on a Zoom yesterday with our hospital, and they have fentanyl running low. They have muscle relaxants running low, because each patient on the ventilator is getting muscle relaxants around the clock. So I just don't feel that it's you know, warranted for me to do elective procedures right now and use up fentanyl or use up muscle relaxants or gas. I mean, these are I haven't gone back yet. I haven't stepped foot in the office in weeks, but these are the types of thoughts that I'm having right now, because if I don't go back soon, I will have to let everyone go.
Ali, what about you? Since you also do surgeries, when do you project to start going back to work? And when you do, what are you going to do to keep your patients safe?
Well, I mean, that is the key question. I think we will start in Holland. What we have is the so-called what the government calls the intelligent lockdown. That means that we do social distancing. Restaurants and bars are closed, and all the events are closed, and we just can go out once a day to have a bit of fresh air and do some shopping with gloves and a lot of people with masks. But so. This so-called intelligent lockdown is extended until 28th of April, and the week before they will tell us when they're going to start again with the so-called contact professions, which are also barbers and hairdressers and nail people and stuff like that, and physiotherapists. So what we were thinking is starting with non-surgical facial rejuvenation, and then some smaller types of surgeries with what Sheila was referring to, which I can do in my own clinic because I have a small OR. But we also have a shortage of ventilators, which are now all confiscated for the corona patients, and also we have a shortage of propofol, which is which is a drug to put patients to sleep. So, and I don't think that we can get started that kind of surgery anytime soon, but yeah, to keep yourself busy and afloat, I hope that we can do non-surgical rejuvenation in May. We have some extra precautions that we do, like for example, what the dentists are doing is putting their hands through plexiglass to make sure that they control the amount of aerosol which are coming through. So in that way, we can also do injections because I mean it's virtually impossible to do a lip injection with mask on. So those are the things we're thinking about now, how to start when it's over. But at the moment, it's still no business and costs rising.
You know what I haven't heard much about? Have any of you heard about this? An ability to like have the air circulate better in buildings or in our offices, because there's some of the evidence that those aerosolized particles in open spaces disperse, and it's a lot safer. But I haven't heard that anywhere.
Well, I mean, a lot of the anesthesiologists are doing that, following that, because in the OR, they were saying the air circulates like 8 times every 20 minutes. So what they're doing is when the anesthesiologists for non-elective cases are putting the patients to sleep, the anesthesiologist in the room in like the full gear. They put the patient to sleep. Everyone else stands outside for 20 minutes. And then after 20 minutes, the surgery can commence.
Dario, we have learned so much from you the last 3 weeks. And again, remember, I don't watch the news. So what is going on in Italy? What can we learn from it? What are you going through? And could you tell us a little bit how things are going over there? And what are you guys doing? And what's the plan for you? Where are you planning to open and trying to function?
Yeah. So just yesterday, the government made a conference in the evening where they extended the lockdown to the date of May 3. They are speaking about coming back to like a restart of some activities. And there is a plan to restart, which will be revealed next week. If the things are going in this way, that rate is with the algorithm is 0 in the May 19. So we have to wait for May 19. What to learn? We are still wearing masks when we go shopping, gloves. We avoid to go around. We wash every minute that we can our hands and the clothes. And the weather is now so shining, so people love to go out, but they cannot. So this is what we the plans. We have no plans to restart to work in our offices because still, as Ali told you, the ventilators are confiscated and we have not so many drugs available. If I can make you report, in our area, the mean age now is 79. Only 8 people of the 600 that I told you are below 45, more or less. The rest is above 75 with comorbidities.
So I want to hear from everybody's time from you, Andre, how this pandemic has changed you personally.
Oh my God. So I'm reconnecting with a lot of people that I didn't have time to talk, you know, and to my old friends, a very old friend that I never have time to come back and call, and the family that is a little bit so far, and how to keep my mind occupied. Like I told you before, I began to do yoga and meditation. I never did this before, so it's helped me a lot, and working a lot with the papers and project and the lecturing and this kind of thing. But the real thing, the most important thing to me is this: to reconnect with people that I have the that I always say that no, I don't have time now. I will call you later tomorrow, and like years and years doing that. So this is the right moment, and learning a lot with the charity, the people that I'm trying to do more, and this kind of thing. So I think that we need to reinvent ourselves, and I'm trying to do that.
Me too, and I told that to Steve on his 5-minute questions that I look at time differently now. I always was asking a lot more of time. I always was asking if there were more hours in the day so I can get to do everything that I feel that I need to do. Then I realized that time is not as a force outside myself that I need to oblige. Time is something that I make, and all of you make. So there's no more excuses. Again, there should not be more excuses not to reconnect with old friends and family members, because we get into this illusion of success, especially all of us that are KOLs, that we think that if we don't say yes to all the meetings and write all these papers and book chapters, we are not going to be relevant anymore. But no, that's not important. It adds to our life because we all love doing this, but we can make time. And I learned that I can make time, and Mother Nature have taught me that I can make time. Rashmi.
For me, like Andre said, even I've started connecting with everyone. But then what the little thing that I've seen what's changed is for example, a telephone call with my mom has gotten longer. It's not have to do every morning saying, Mom, okay, tell me fast, I'm running. No. Now I love chit chat, live that moment, enjoy my mom. Even if she tells me the silliest thing 3 times over, I'm just listening. So that has eased the stress between a lot of relationships, you know. So that's something which is. Then I've gone back to my dancing, my painting, and I'm enjoying it. And one thing probably I'd like to share with the group is there's a poet called Rumi. Poetry, he ends up talking about silence. Not silence as an act, but silence as a state of mind. To me, I thought that was profound, and just trying to shut off and stay silent and enjoy the calm is what I'm trying to practice. So that's something which is interesting for me.
Sheila.
I've changed a lot as the weeks pass. I think the first week of being home, I was in that state of mind. You know, when you graduate residency for the first 2 months, you're like, you know, and then after that, you're like, okay, what do I do now? So I'm sort of in the what do I do now stage. So the things that I'm doing a lot for myself is I've gotten back into my skincare routine. I'm stretching every day. I can finally touch my toes again. You know, I'm exercising a little bit more. Thank you. Not a lot, but I'm exercising more. I talk to my dad every day as well. I'm getting to organize my space, declutter, and also, you know, as Andre said, to reinvent. I'm kind of reinventing myself professionally as well. I've moved a lot of things and my energies online, working on my e-commerce site, creating an affiliate program so all the customers now can refer their friends. So it's like I feel the most stress and the most pressure about my staff and how I'm going to keep them fed and sheltered. And that's what's causing me to really be driven right now and just, you know, be moving forward to try to reinvent the business a little bit or branch out and flesh out the e-commerce side of it, because I really feel responsible for them. I feel like throughout this whole thing, I've sort of found myself in a calm and in a leadership position. I've been watching a lot of webinars on how to lead better and how to really rally the staff to brainstorm of how we can work together to everyone's survival.
For me, I think that the big change has also been, as all of us, that I have had more time. Not so much that I have stopped working, because as contrary to most other people, we have continued to work, even though in a much more restricted way. With the recommendation from our healthcare authorities, we follow those. And we offered our services to the public health sector, where we're helping them with the breast cancer cases now next week. So we offered both the machinery and equipment, and they accepted some of our services. But we also struggle because Academy Clinic is a big organization with 300 employees. So that's tough, because Norway and Denmark, where we have clinics, they're completely shut down, whereas Sweden still can work, but with sensible way of dealing with what we do. But for me, I also received a lot of time, because I had, I think, 10 different travels, lectures and workshops and so on until the summer. And all of that is gone. All of that is gone. And as you know, Shino, our big BTS meeting in Stockholm is canceled. With respect to that, I suddenly got a lot of time. Suddenly my calendar is not full anymore. And for me, that has been good. It's given me time to reflect and think and relax. And I think, as for all of you, it also opens up my mind about the fact that we can do things in a different way. Like this type of communication we have now, that has been instrumental in getting our clinics to work. It's a totally different way of communicating, and probably we'll learn that we don't have to travel from each city in Stockholm to another. We can do things in a very effective way using something like Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm really so interested in what everybody is saying, but as I listen, I realize that there's a few realities that we can't get around. And one is this virus is here to stay. So it's not going to go away. And social distancing and quarantine and isolating and even wearing masks all the time is not really feasible in the long run. One of the good things about wearing the mask is it's going to hide a lot of bad lip filler injections. So, but you know, this virus is new for all of us, you know, as a world. So we're learning things about it, as Steve and I have talked about a lot last night, but we've all been talking about here is that we're learning so much about it so quickly. And really the only way through this is for us to learn how to address it, for us to understand exactly what it's doing, who it does it to, and what to do about it. Once we have that down, then we can pretty much get back to our normal lives. So one thing I've learned about myself is that I'm more adaptable than I realized. And I am such a go, go, go person. I love my routine and going to work and seeing patients, and I get my energy from that. So I've had to find other ways to derive that energy. And like Sheila, I feel very responsible for my staff, and I've committed to supporting them through this because they do live paycheck to paycheck, and I can absorb this better than they can. So I'm trying to find ways to make sure that we all stay busy. We worked really hard together. My new website launched last night, so that's been a year of work, so we got that done. I'm writing for my blog and getting a lot of things done that I otherwise haven't had time for. So my days are very productive. I feel good about that. And I'm reading a lot more books, which I love to read. So I'm getting so much done, and I'm using the time because I know this is finite. This will pass, and then I'm going to go back to my life, maybe a little differently, but I'm going to get back to it. So I want to take advantage of this time and enjoy it, because I don't have a choice over some things that are happening, but I have a choice over how I handle it. So I'm choosing to be positive and to use it as best as I can. And I love these forums because I love hearing everyone else's point of view.
I'm trying to be very productive now. And I had a lot of writing that I left behind, and I'm trying to update them during this day. But one thing that I found very interesting is to learn different things. And I'm enjoying a lot watching TED Talks because they are so fast, short, and from different points of view or different issues. And I found it so interesting. I'm learning a lot with this TED Talk. So it's a good way and a suggestion for you too also.
Sebastian.
Honestly, I think despite this time is very difficult for a lot of reasons, I personally, I think I will miss the peace of mind that I'm having these days. And I just want to tell you, I mean, how my normal day is. You know, I start working between 7 and 8, and I'm writing all day, doing my online lectures, torturing my students. But I really finish at 5, which in general I don't do, because in general I work until 7 or 9. But I say at 5 I finish, and then I go out into my yard, and then I do some gardening and do some woodwork and stuff. And I know that I would never had time to do this to this extent, to see how spring came and to really enjoy, see the blossom and the flowering, all of this. It's really amazing, because like Per said, you know, and every one of us, we had so many meetings during the spring, during the summer, but now that we don't have them, it's like I have really much time to do these things, and I'm very, very peaceful state of mind, which I'm generally not, because in general I'm running from one day to the other and from one thought to the other. But the other thing that that I wanted to say is also is I realized that I can do a lot of things and can still teach a lot of things despite I'm not there. I mean, I realized there are a lot of webinars that I can do. I mean, I just did last week one from Latin America. I'm going to do some for Russia, for Asia. And I don't have to fly there. I don't have to. I mean, which is good, because I mean, all of the environment, CO2 emissions and stuff for all travels and costs, but I can do them like this, and I can still reach the people. I can still have my mission as a teacher and as a professor to educate people. And I can still do it without having the pressure, oh, I need to go there, I need to go there. So for this is kind of, I think it relaxes me additionally to see that in the future I can do things differently. And I think this crisis has taught me a lot, and I'm still continuing to learn.
I've had a chance to read a lot, some of the classics I've always wanted to, and I'm getting a chance to reflect and to write and philosophically write, which I really like doing. But I think what one of the things I've gotten out of this the most is I've learned what I can live without, and I've also learned a lot of what I don't want to live without. And those are two things that are really coming more into focus each day.
What to add? I think that the mixture of what you already said, it's my personal lifestyle now. I'm really exercising a lot in the afternoon. In the morning, I wake up as always at 7, and I come to the clinic. I study. I take care of patients here at the university, because I'm allowed to. Today, for example, I have to take out a nail from the eye of a person. So it was really something for the emergency. I have to study what I do in my surgeries, new techniques, and so on, as everybody. So it's a great pleasure, because I feel like, again, the pleasure of studying, because for me it's really like a game, as for all of you. And because I feel safe when I study, because I can provide my feeling safe to the patients. And then I make a lot of plans, of course, as all of you, for the future.
Oh, well, most of the things have been said already, but I really look forward to at least starting the non-surgical work. But like Dario, I'm professionally just trying to update my skills and study and do some research. But the most important change for me is that I've had so much time to spend hours and hours with my baby. She's 15 months. I have to, I have to make food and become a real mommy type of daddy. So that's that was really a good change. I make walks with social distancing, and I have never seen Amsterdam so quiet and so empty. So the picture that you see on the background, the museum plain, is always infested with this huge amount of people, and it's empty. No one is there. You can walk there, and the peace and quiet, which of course my native Persian Rumi has brought to us, as Rashmi said, is so endearing, and that is something that that you don't appreciate in the hectic lifestyle that we run around.